Hey, hello. Welcome to Enough is Enough, Becoming Unapologetically You. I am your host, Coach Ramirez, and this is my lovely co-host, Lady C.
Hello, good people.
Oh man, we hope you had an amazing day on today. We thank you so much for tuning in on tonight as we get ready to talk about depression. I'm gonna let Lady C go first.
Well, good afternoon again, all the way from Pensacola, Florida. We want to encourage you guys tonight on depression. Before we get started, I just wanted to let you know what our call is. And our call to action is to be powerful, to be bold, and to be you unapologetically. And to our purpose is to share life experience, Bible truth, and telling the enemy that enough is enough. Our goal is to empower, motivate, and inspire and encourage others of the same walk or dealing with something even worse than we have. We're all on here to help one another. Our mission is to reach those who have gone through or going through some of the similar things that we're going through. This is a judge-free zone. We're not here to judge anyone. We're not here to make anyone feel bad of the things that they went through. When you look at us, you see that we are too been and we had a past and we all had to come through something. And tonight we want to talk about depression because for most of us we've all been in depression and we've all dealt with some type of depression. And I know that when you hear depression you think, oh, I'm just depressed over this or over that. But after doing some studying, I found out that there's more depression. We'll do it afterwards. But I found out that there's more than just the little depressions that we talk about on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
We deal with so much depression. Sometimes we deal with depression and we don't even know that we're depressed or stressed. But just wanted to give you a little history on depression so you can get a better understanding of some of the things that you may be dealing with and didn't know that it was depression. So as I was doing my research today, I came across a depression treatment center. And before we get started, I just wanted to say all depression might not need treatment, but there are some depressions that definitely needs treatment. I know we are in the church, and I know that some people say, well, if you got Jesus, you don't need to go get treatment. Well, yes, you do. If it had not been, God would not allow the people to be doctors, and He would not allow the people that makes the medicines to be a creator. So I wanted to give you guys the number to a depression treatment center, and it's a 1-800 number, but it's 1-866-260-7224. Again, 1-866-260-7224. Please write that number down. You may know a family member or friend that may need help, and it's beyond your helping point. It's beyond you just bringing them to the church to get prayer, that they might just really do need the treatment that they need. So please take that number. Um, when we think of depression, what is depression? It's a common mental health problem in the nation across the global. I do know that again, we always say that depression is just my bills are not paid, but it's more to that. As I did my research, it lets us know that some people can bounce back from depression. It depends on the kind of depression that they're going through. Again, it could be your bills need to be paid, but once that bill is paid, you're able to bounce back because you know, okay, I'm good, I'm free, the bill is paid, I'm good. Who has depression? Study says about 17.3 million people in America are affected by depression. Um, the conditions is more common in females who are twice likely than men to suffer depression. Why? Because we go through so much that men go through. We have depression after we have a baby. We have depression while we're pregnant. We have all kinds of things going on with us that would keep us depressed. 36% teen females go through depression. 13% of the teen boys go through depression. And you ask yourself, why are the numbers so high with the young girls? Because it's a lot of peer pressure out there these days. People are pressuring them, little boys are pressuring them to have sex or do stuff that they have no business doing, being a part of something, or it's a depression to be on something to try to live a lifestyle that they're really not. With the boys, it may be being a friend to someone, or fitting in, or drugs, or whatever the case may be. We got some other stuff going on here, so if you see us doing a lot of moving, forgive us. 2 out of 3 people struggle with depression, and some of them, about 2 to 3 of them, they might seek treatment. Again, that's where that number comes in at. They'll seek treatment, they'll get the help that they need. Some people won't. Critical depression can ruin your life. Critical depression can increase the risk of a substance abuse. It can increase your relationship, destroy your relationship. It also has an effect on your job skill at work. So if you're under a lot of stress or depression, it can cause a damage in your day-to-day walk. Just going to work, you don't know, you think that you got it together. Some people go to work just to leave home because they're depressed, but it actually goes to work with them. So we have to be careful. In some cases, study shows that people develop heart diseases by being depressed, and it could cause them to have a heart attack. So a lot of times when we see people that's having heart conditions or stuff like that, it's not always based on it was from their mom or their dad, because I know for a fact that I have some friends that are young that have heart problems, and it's not because of their family had it, it's because they got a lot of stress and depression going on, and it causes them to go and stuff like that. Another research, it is uncommon for depression to be misdiagnosed from other mood disorders, such as bipolar disorder, of conditions like ADD or ADHD. It's all kinds of depression. You can be depressed and not know about it. I have a son, he's ADHD, and I wouldn't say he's depressed, but it's certain things that go with his ADHD. Him being ADHD sometimes allow him to feel like he's alone. So my job as a mom to love on him more, so he don't fall in that state of depression, feeling like he has nobody, that he doesn't have a friend or someone that he can love on, or someone to love on him. So I have to make him constantly feel loved, make him constantly feel wanted, so he don't fall in depression. Some people ADHD could be a lot worse. I have a young lady I work with, her son as well has ADHD, and his is on a much higher level. Like, he constantly fights, he constantly stabs people with pencils, and he's in the same grade that my son is in. So she has to go the extra mile. And with that being said, he has to have treatments. My son was on medicine, but he's not anymore because it's something that he grew out of. And even though the doctor said, oh, he's still ADHD, they label him with that. But because the God that I serve, I know he don't. And he's not taking medicine anymore. So it's all kind of things that's going on in depression. And I wanted to call out some more little stuff, and I'm gonna turn it over.
Yeah, while you looking, because I know you said depression is, because a lot of times we get depression mixed up with just feelings of just being sad, and that's just not always the case.
Right.
We can get it mixed up with just grieving. Those are natural feelings.
Right.
We have to go through that process. So, but those also, they can lead to being depressed. So you can't just say, oh, she's grieving, she's depressed. No, that's not how it works.
Right.
I mean, you can go to be, like she said, you lose your job, depression. You be at church and you feel like you're being mistreated, can onset depression. Your friend walked out on you, you go through a divorce. There's just so many things that can cause a person to go through a state of depression. And 9 times out of 10 is not necessarily a major depression, it can just last for a period of time, like a seasonal depression, because there are different forms. You have a major depression, can last like 2 weeks. You have a persistent depression disorder, which lasts about 2 years or more. You have bipolar disorder. You have seasonal affective disorder, which is called SAD, SAD, and that lasts is seasonal.
Right.
You have psychotic depression, which causes hallucination, delusions, or paranoia. Then you have postpartum depression. Now, this is what I found out with postpartum depression, because a lot of times we say postpartum depression and we just think about women.
Right.
Men can get postpartum depression too. 1 out of 10 men have postpartum depression. I told my husband, I was like, he's like, what is that? He said, what is postpartum depression? And so I explained it to him. He said, but why would a man? I said, because if you never had a kid, okay, say you never had a kid, and all of a sudden you have this new baby, the baby is taking up a lot of time between you and your wife or your significant other, and you guys are not spending as much time, so he feels left out. That can onset postpartum depression in a male. And I was like, what? Okay. And so you also have premenstrual disorder or depression. And so I used to have it so bad to where, I mean, literally, I would have mood swings. I'd be so aggravated, so frustrated. And it can be something that happened a year ago. And it comes right back when I'm in my menstrual cycle. And that lasts about 10 days or so. But there's like I say, there's so many different forms of it, which is crazy. Sensational depression, which is a short term that happens after a traumatic event, such as sexual abuse or physical abuse. And you have to adjust yourself in order to take on all of this stuff. Like you said, all of this stuff is not just, oh, she's having a demonic attack or whatever. There's chemical imbalances within a person, within their frontal lobe or their hemoglobin, all these different stuff that's happening in a person. So it would cause treatment. And some people, when they go to treatment, sometimes don't even take. Right.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because some of the stuff that I was researching, it tells us about our brain. A lot of stuff that we deal with, and this, depending on the kind of depression that we're going through, it's mostly coming from your brain not being balanced. So that's why it's important for you to go get treatment. Always going to church, just getting hands laid on you is not always the case. And I'm not saying that my God is not powerful, that he can't do it. I'm just saying there are times that people need medicine to help with their depression, because if not, it'll escalate into something even hurting themselves or hurting a loved one. And she was going over some of the depressions, but some of the ones that I was looking at today was pure I have it on the tip of my tongue. I can't even just say words today. But depression, pure I can't get it out, but it's gonna sound crazy when I say it. Anxiety. That's what but anxiety, you can have depression from anxiety, and some of those are being startled or being provoked. That's how you know that you have it. So if you're one of those ones that's always on the defense line, it might be anxiety. That's a depression. They call it hypertension. Right.
So good times, he's always throwing those chairs.
So what we think someone is acting out, it could be a form of depression. Nauseating, dizziness, some of that is caused by being depressed. Everything that you go through is not just, oh, that's something health related, oh, that's something hereditary. No, check what you're depressed about. Check what's making you feel like you're feeling, because everything you don't have to go to the doctor about. Some things you just have to change the way you do things. Right. So we have pure depression. Pure depression is often resulted from exaggerating, like overdoing yourself. So you will lose interest in stuff, be reckless, you'll be crying a lot, you do thoughts of suicide, suicidal. So when you're thinking of stuff like that, and I had to learn that, and I had to ask myself, well, when I was younger and I used to think of suicidal, I didn't know that was caused of depression because I was young. I didn't understand what depression really was. But now that I look back over some of this stuff, I can see that, okay, this is what I was dealing with at my time. So PSD, I think that's what it's called, how I said, they get depression, but that's because they've been over in the war and they bring back stuff that happened in the war that triggers them. I had a patient the other day in the hospital that he heard just a little beat going off, and it made him just, and he got up and left. Like before we could take the IV out and everything, he got up and left. We had to run behind him to get the IV out, but just by the ticking of the monitor made him go into stress and went into depression, and it was like he had to get out. So it's all kinds of depression. When you find yourself biting your nails a lot, check that out. When you find yourself just being upset for no reason, like you can have a good day, everything around you can go good, but you still feeling sad, you still crying, you still feel like you're just down, that's a sign of depression. So I used to take Zoloft when I was younger because I was depressed, but it caused depression because all the stuff that went on in my childhood. And then I was on medication. I was going to the doctor, getting different pills to help me with my depression until I actually went to church. And I was like, okay, God, something's going on with me and I need your help. These pills are not working. All they did was make me walk around like a zombie. And it wasn't working because if I'm already depressed and I'm sad and down, why would I take another pill to make me walk around look like a zombie? So it really wasn't helping me. So I had to turn to the church next to get my help. And that's where my help actually come from. So again, I say some people can go to church and get their deliverance and get what they need for their depression. And then there are some that really needs to go to the hospital and get help. Because if not, someone could die. They could kill themselves.
Yeah, because a lot of times depression goes unnoticed. It's one of the silent killers within the U.S. It's just so, it's such a broad spectrum around depression and how everything works. I don't have my piece of paper, and it talks about just how the top cities are. You got Texas. Is it Texas? I mean, you just there's so many cities that's around that's on that little list, and you would think they wouldn't even be on there.
Right.
Florida didn't make it this time.
Finally. Finally.
We didn't make it this time, praise God. But it's so many different states in this city, or in this, my God.
Right. We tongue twisted tonight.
In so many places to where depression is happening, but also you're not really getting all the numbers because not everybody go to the doctor.
Right.
Not everybody can afford to go see a doctor to get checked. They can't afford it. It's expensive. And not just that, you feel like, how I'm going to be judged. How are people going to see me if I go in and say I'm seeing a psychiatrist?
Right.
Or I'm taking medicine for this situation. And hey, you gotta do what's best for you.
Right.
Because only you can help change yourself. Like, we can give you all the information, but if you don't do anything with the information, then it's pretty much
just out the window. Right.
Yeah, it's just going in and going right back out. Only you can change your situation.
And one thing I want to implore to our listeners, those that are on here, those that may come on later, for those of you that have young children, it's very important. It's very important nowadays. And I know earlier in the beginning, I gave you numbers of the rates of the young teenagers and of the young adult boys, but keep a hold on your kids. Talk to your kids. Get in their lives. One thing about me, there's no secrets in my house with my kids. We have an open relationship. I want my kids to talk to me about anything because I know those signs. I know what to look for. I don't never want my child to feel like they can't come and talk to me. Right. That's why so many kids are leaving here killing themselves because they feel like they didn't have anyone to talk to. When all you had to do was talk to them, get to the bottom of it, and get them the help that they needed. You know, some kids might need the Zoloft. Some kids may need to just, hey, you spend a little bit more time with them. Give them that little bit more. Let them know your ladies, your little girls, you're beautiful. So they don't have to go hear it from someone else because Johnny broke their heart. tell them, hey, it's okay. Johnny won't be the first one to break your heart. You know, take them out to get ice cream, make them laugh, make them forget.
You gotta build their self-esteem. Because a lot of times people with low self-esteem, environmental factors, are just like inside your home when you're going through a lot of stuff. I was telling you the other day, that depression is considered contagious.
Right.
It's contagious because if you're around a person, so like if I'm around you all day and you just woe is me, that may catch on to me. Right. If I'm not doing anything to boost your confidence, I'm like, yeah, woe is you. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? To where it catches on. It says it's 3 out of 6. If you come from a household and your parents suffered from depression, 9 times out of 10, you're going to suffer from it too, because that's what you saw. That's what you knew. Right. My mama was always depressed. My daddy was always depressed. They was always crying. They was always doing this. Right. To where it trickles on. And not, I mean, we in church, we say it's in bloodline. Right. DNA. But when you go out to the medical field, it's contagious. Right. Either way. If you see that, you take on that characteristics. Right. And some people have it worse than others. That's why there's different categories to what a person can do. So what's best for you may not be what's best for me. Because I went through depression. And I did too. And not just one time, not just when I was out in the world, but I went through depression when I was in the church. You know, I went through depression when I was out there in the world. I went through depression when I thought everything was good. Yeah. And not knowing that I was still depressed. Why? Because I was taking on other people's stories and depression. That's why I say all the time, you're going to hear me say this until we decide not to do podcasts no more. Know who you got around you at all times, because I don't care how good your life may be. If you got the wrong person around you and they're always feeding your spirit negative, eventually you're gonna be negative. I mean, I have caught myself taking on other people's stress. They at home sleeping, I'm up worrying about them and stressed out. Why? Because I took that on, and then before you know it, I did this out of this, I did that out of that, and now I'm depressed. Now I'm stressed, and now I feel like I need to go take medicine, and when I shouldn't be feeling like that. So know who's in your circle, know the signs, get an intake of yourself. If you see yourself always scared to be around people, avoiding people, biting your nails, or you're being isolated, or you just feel like you want to be by yourself, those are signs of depression. Did you know that even though once you gotten over depression, 9 times out of 10 you will have to deal with it again in your lifetime? So it just never ever really truly goes away. Right. You just got to know how to deal with it, and know, and don't be in denial about what you got and what you're depressed. If you're depressed, say I'm depressed. It's more easy to hear yourself. It's just like AA. You got to first admit you got a problem. Admit that you're depressed. And so we've talked about the world stance of depression. Now let's talk about the spirit of heaviness, because that is also a form of depression. Yes. And Isaiah 61:3 says, "To appoint unto them that mourn in Zion, to give unto them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they may be called trees of righteousness, the plant of the Lord, that he might be glorified." So, like you already said, you already went over the numbers. 17.3 million Americans, adults, suffer from depression from the ages 18 and above. In the year of, I want to say 2021, 1.9 million children have suffered from depression from the age 3 to 17. So our children are really being put, oh my gosh, under such immense pressure that we didn't have to go through back in the day like that. Because I mean, no, my household wasn't perhaps. Hey y'all, my battery is about to die. This tablet is just tripping. So I'm gonna have to go back off and come back in. But it's depression is no joke. Whether it's the spirit of heaviness or just a psychotic break, you just have to break down. It's really, really no joke. So if my screen goes off, I will come back in on my laptop, because this is, I had to go on my tablet because I was having some technical difficulties. So I do apologize for that, but I will come back in if it goes out. So I'm gonna keep talking until it does that. People experience spiritual depression when they go to church, and sometimes they hold on to guilt when God has already forgiven you. You already repented because I've done it. Like, God, why do you want me? Right. Me, I thought I'd done. And he's like, I already forgave you for that. What are you talking about? And so we will go into a spirit of heaviness because we're still holding on to the guilt that he's already said, my son already died for that.
Right.
That's been wiped out. You don't have to talk about that no more. Or you hear people that's saying something about you and they're supposed to be your sister and your brother. That would bring you down as well. Versus going to a person and say, hey, I feel like block XYZ. Like I asked you today, hey, what's up? And so that's how we're able to communicate with each other. But sometimes we shut down and we'll hear this person say this or this person say that. And that also can bring on the spirit of heaviness.
Right.
When all you have to do is say, hey, listen, I want to talk to you mano to mano, because that's a Bible say if you have an with your sister brother, go to them.
Right.
Not add to the madness or just shine away, because that's how we get into a funk as well.
Right. And that's so important. I mean, it's so important to like just talk to people. You'll get more results when you talk to people than just holding on to stuff. It is so it's so much that can happen when you talk it out. Versus going to bed with it on your mind. Because I was one of those ones, and you're gonna hear me talk about myself a lot, but I was one of those ones that hold stuff in. And when I hold stuff in, I found myself just crying. And I'm like, why am I crying? Because I'm shutting up my bowels and not talking to anyone, and it's getting heavier and heavier. So talk to people. If you have an art with your brother and sister, go to them, talk to them. I'd rather talk about it and get it over with and move on to the next thing than going to bed week after week, month after month with this same stuff on. And before you know it, you got heart problems because you got all this stuff on your heart. You're having sleepless nights. You can't get to sleep. Your eating pattern is wrong. You can't eat right, or you're constantly running from someone that you see in church because you know they hurted you, and that's not how God intended us to be.
Mention it when looking at the spiritual side again, you begin to back away. You forget your spiritual duties. Like you're supposed to be reading, you're supposed to be worshiping, you're supposed to be spending time in prayer. But when the spirit of heaviness come on, you don't want to do all that.
Right.
It's hard for you to worship. It's hard for you to pray. And so you kind of sit there like dumbified or numbified to where you're like, you know what? Is it really worth it?
Right.
And it's all because like you have your mind, your mentality is telling you with Satan, and Satan gets in. Let's say him too, because I try not to blame too much, because sometimes we do stuff to ourselves.
Right.
And we get in our own way. And we allow other people to influence us as well, to where we're in a funk and wonder how to get out the funk.
Right.
And so you have to remove yourself from different situations and do something new.
Right.
Because if you still on the same roller coaster from 3-4 years ago, then you try something new. If it ain't working, try something new. Life challenges can spring on the spirit of heaviness. Losing a job, financial issues, family relationship issues. Feel like don't nobody care, worried about too much, just different stuff. When I'm going to elevate, I feel like they're not hearing what I'm saying, or I mean, just different stuff like that. Will cause you to have the spirit of heaviness, neglecting to feed your spirit.
Right.
You wonder why you sounding crazy. Well, you ain't feeding yourself. You gotta feed yourself. I talked about all that, but I want to say these people in the Bible, because when I started reading about different people in the Bible, because a lot of times we read the Bible and won't understand that people in the Bible actually had some depression issues too. King David had a depression issue. His depression, we're gonna just talk about that old girl. He had to have her. And so when he had to have her, it ricocheted some things to where he